all you cell group members. It's great to be back with you guys. And by the way, I hope that last Sunday you saw that message from DJ Jurgensen from Durango Vineyard. That was a great word that he shared with us. And I think it spoke your language, our language, about how to reach our community together. But Sunday, I talked about being disciples, of following Jesus. And I also talked about the value of being disciple makers and what that really involves. And I love the verse in Matthew 4:19 where Jesus approaches these two guys that are professional fishermen. It's Peter and his brother Andrew. Undoubtedly, they were raised by their father to be professional fishermen. This was their life. This was the only thing that they knew. And this guy, Jesus, walks up to them and looks them in the eye and he says, "Guys, follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." Now, obviously, most of us, when we hear an invitation like that, will think, well, let me go on my computer, I'll do some searches on who you are, and I'll do some background checks, and maybe I'll consider this, but I'll let you know. But it says that Peter and Andrew, it says they immediately dropped their nets, and they followed him. That is an amazing statement of what those guys are basically doing, is willing to say, I'll drop everything that has been the identity of my life. I'm dropping everything that has been my occupation, my means of being able to feed my family. I'm dropping everything to follow this guy Jesus. Are you kidding me? But we have to understand who it was that made the invitation. It was Jesus. It was the Lord. It was to them the Messiah. That he actually came to them, mere fishermen. These were blue-collar guys. They're not the kind of guys that people would choose out of a crowd. Hey, you guys, you're obviously educated and you're of higher esteem in our culture, so you follow me. No, these were the blue-collar guys. And so when Jesus then later in Matthew 5, in the Sermon on the Mount, when he said that you are the salt of the earth, and if salt has lost its taste, he says it's no longer good for anything, and so it's just thrown out on the road and it's trampled underfoot. Is that what we really want to become? Do we want to become salt that loses its usefulness? Jesus also said that in the next verse that you are the light of the world. And light means it's supposed to shine. It's supposed to give light. It's supposed to be able to be seen, and the impact of the light chasing out the darkness. And then Jesus said that if you allow your light to shine, he says that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So the question is, how do we grow as followers of Jesus? And I think the best way and the most impactful and lasting way is we have to become discipled. We need someone that can speak into our lives. And I talked about Dawson Trotman, the founder of the Navigators Ministry, how he came to realize that, yes, he was leading people to Christ in the meetings that they would have, but they were dying on the vine, that there was no follow-up with these new believers, and it broke his heart. So he made a commitment that any person that would choose to follow Christ, that he would spend the time with them and disciple them so that they would become true disciples, that they would sink the roots of the faith down deeply through the Word of God and through God's truths, and they would follow it out, and then they would go disciple others. He realized that's how he can expand the kingdom to the greatest capacity. Because, really, the Bible has so many examples of people that are discipled, of an older disciple that's walked with the Lord longer than a younger disciple. And it may not be chronologically, but it's in a spiritual age sense. So we have Moses that discipled Joshua in the book of Exodus and Deuteronomy. And then we have Eli, the prophet, that took this young man named Samuel under his wing, and Samuel actually lived with Eli, and Eli mentored him and helped him to become a man that is able to hear the voice of God and become the voice of God to the people of Israel. And then Paul, in the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, he took this young new believer, Timothy, under his wings and said, hey, dude, come with me, travel with me, watch what I do, watch how I live my life, listen to my teachings that I'm going to teach you along the road. And then, eventually, Paul turned over the biggest church in the world at that time in Ephesus to Timothy, his disciple, to pastor that church. Man, that investment that Paul had in Timothy, just the multiplication of the impact of that was profound. And so we go back to what I talked about Dawson Trotman with that. He was given the name of a sailor on the USS Virginia, and as he was talking to him about the gospel, this other young sailor walks up, and Dawson Trotman very proficiently shares the word of God, shares the gospel with this young sailor, and this young sailor is deeply impacted. And as he watched Dawson Trotman do that, he said, I would give my right arm to be able to use the scriptures the way that you did. And I love how Dawson Trotman, just in extreme wisdom, he said, no, you wouldn't. He was just baiting the guy. And the guy said, yes, I would. Really, I would. And Dawson Trotman said, okay, you have to invest yourself, and it's going to be a lot of work. It won't cost you your right arm, but it's going to take a lot of work. But I'll give you as much as you need. And that's the heart of a discipler with a disciplee. And so with that in mind, I want to leave you guys with 3 questions in your cell group to discuss. First was that acknowledge that Paul was a mentor of Timothy. What ways did you see, or do you see in reading the scriptures, of how Paul actually discipled Timothy? So take some time to discuss that in your small group. The second question is, consider who has been a person of great influence in your life, and what characteristics did he or she have that was transformative to you? What did they say to you? How did they invest in you? What did you see in their life that made you want to emulate that life? Because that really is discipleship, isn't it? So talk about that in your small group. And number 3, in what ways do you think you can be of influence to another person in the near future? In other words, how can you eventually start discipling someone else, and what do you think the impact of that can be? Discuss that in your cell groups. And I hope this has been a challenge to everyone in your cell groups, that I think everyone needs to be involved in a discipleship relationship. Talk amongst one another of how you can begin to do that individually in your cell groups. God bless you guys, and I can't wait to hear the stories of how God impacts your lives because you're getting involved in discipleship. Blessings to you.